Hello, I'm Mike Gondek, and this is Boondocking 101. I originally gave this presentation to the Thor Diesel Club, and and they asked that I would do it again in a social media format. So here we are. The agenda, what we're going to talk about today, I'm going to do a brief introduction about myself. We're going to talk about what is boondocking, and why would anyone want to boondock, and how do we boondock. Most importantly, how to conserve our RV resources when we're boondocking, and tips to easily replenish your RV without breaking camp. And since we're no longer live, I can't do the Q&A, but let's proceed. Let's get started. So, who are the Gondeks? Well, we're Mike and Dawn Gondek, and we've been full-time RVers since 2016. We're domiciled out of Green Cove Springs, Florida. COVID prompted us to buy a RV lot in Pass Christian, Mississippi, on the beautiful Gulf Coast. We full-time RV out of a 2013 Thor Tuscany. We're empty nesters, and that's a little bit about us. Now, when we look up boondocking in dictionary.com, it says nothing found. So it's a term that the industry has kind of self-created. But when we look at well-known RV sources, basically boondocking is defined as staying in your RV without any hookups or services. And of course, whether that be on public land, you can do it you can boondock in state or national parks. You can boondock on BLM land. And by the way, BLM stands for Bureau of Land Management. It's basically land owned by the federal government. And of course, you can also boondock on private land, whether that be in a private residence. Maybe you back your motorhome or your RV up into a friend's driveway and you plug into their garage. By the way, we call that moochdocking, very appropriately named. Also, you can boondock in parking lots such as Walmart, Cracker Barrel, Sam's Club, etc. If you do that, make sure you get permission from the store manager before you try that. So that's what boondocking is. So the question would be, why would anyone want to boondock? Why would you want to park your RV someplace that doesn't have services? Well, quite simply, if you look at this picture here on the screen, you can see the beauty, the surroundings. The views can be absolutely stunning if you pick the right location. I noted here on my slide bullet point the peace. It is absolutely peaceful when you're out in these serene locations, and of course all that ties in with the nature. And then there's also a cost element with RV boondocking. The cost of staying a night in a campground or an RV park has seemed to have exponentially increased since we've started RVing. And so there is a cost element. Now, I'm going to make some suggestions and recommendations on things and tools that you can buy to make your boondocking life a little bit easier. But by no means do you have to buy any of these things in order to get out there and enjoy the outdoors and enjoy the nature in these pristine settings. For example, you can look at this picture here. I'm in the motorhome. Some friends of ours have never boondocked before, and we actually wound up plugging their rig into ours just so that they could keep their batteries topped off and so they could enjoy this experience with us. So you can use your imagination while you're out here, but we're going to show you some tips and tricks how to make things go easier on you. So I noted here there's an app for that. There are at least one website, freecampsites.net, that will that's a government U.S. government website, which will show you where you can camp on U.S. government soil. Then there are three other applications here for your phone, or three other phone apps: Campendium, the Dirt, and U.S. Public Lands. Now, these will show you areas that you're allowed to boondock in, and they'll show other areas too, like they'll list out campgrounds, etc. But one of the things that I like as a full-time working nomad, that the Dirt and Campendium, they will also tell us what the cell service is like in these areas. So if you are like me and you rely on a working cell phone in order to make your living, then these apps can come in quite handy. So as I look at this video, or as you look at this video here, this was a boondocking lot that was outside of Carlsbad Caverns. This was called the Chosa BLM lot, basically. It's in outside of Carlsbad, New Mexico, and you can see the views here are absolutely stunning. And you know, it's the views I think that make us want to boondock, and along with the other reasons that I mentioned earlier. But you know, it's nice where you can just kind of pull into a place, drop your jacks, push out your slides, and you're set up. You're ready to go. So now the trick becomes the climates and how to replenish and conserve your resources in your RV. Excuse this 1 second. Let me get to the next slide. So I can't talk about boondocking without mentioning Quartzsite. And what is Quartzsite? Well, Quartzsite is a town in Arizona. It's a very small town. It's on the I-10 border near California in Arizona. It is the unofficial BLM boondocking capital of the USA. And, you know, the interesting thing about the town of Quartzsite is that its population might be 1,500 or so during the summer months when the temperature is really hot. However, when the Arizona desert cools off during the winter, it's a very popular destination for people to come boondock. And that population can increase up to about 2 million during the winter months. So that's quite a contrast. The one thing interesting about Quartzsite is that there are 11,000 acres of BLM land that surround the town of Quartzsite. And also there is state land that you're allowed to boondock on, Arizona state land around Quartzsite as well. Now, the interesting thing about the BLM, here's a video of our rig out in the BLM land. This was an area, a section of the BLM land that actually offered a sewer receptacle, you know, a centralized sewer receptacle, as well as water spigots as well. So it made it very easy to boondock because we had within this complex out here, we had a sewer and water available to us. Now, of course, electric, you're on your own. You either have to have a good, healthy battery bank with solar panels, or you're going to have to run your generator at least some portion during the day. But we absolutely love going out to Quartzsite. It's very common to see someone out in Quartzsite in a tent, parked next to a very expensive Prevost bus. You see all types of people out there. It's not for any one particular type of camper. So, your RV has some very basic needs. Of course, we all of our RVs need electricity. They need water. They need a place to dispose of the waste, and you're going to need some propane as well. We're going to talk about how we can conserve and how we can replenish all of these needs. So your RV has these things, right? It certainly does. And I would say that most of us maybe have boondocked for at least an overnight stay. But I'm curious, how many of you have boondocked for a week or longer? And then my next question would be is how fast did you consume your water? I can tell you that the first time that we tried to boondock, my water was gone in about 2 days, and that was I have a 90-gallon water tank, and it was gone rather quickly. So here's where some of these tips and tricks are going to come in handy. I've listed here some key ingredients for success for boondocking. One is going to be the right climate. Well, at least I don't particularly care to boondock in the summer months when it's hot and when because basically, let's face it, our RVs are like big expensive greenhouses, right? Once the sun hits, it starts to get hot. You almost the air conditioning in an RV is not really a luxury; it's a necessity. I believe, in my humble opinion. So you're going to need some air conditioning in the summer months. Now, you can boondock and run your generator because typically solar is not going to support your generator. Now, there are exceptions, and I've even done it with mine, but for the most part, it's not very practical to run your air conditioning off of your solar and your lithium battery bank or your battery bank, whatever that it may be. So with some conservation efforts, those are definitely a key ingredient for success. You follow some of these very basic replenishment tips that I'm going to share with you. And also, I would recommend that you practice boondocking. Well, you might ask, Mike, how are you going to do that? Well, you can very simply go to a full hookup campground and turn all the services off and stay there for a week and see how long your water will last, see how long your batteries will last before you need to fire up your generator. And of course, when you're in a full hookup RV park, you don't need the generator. Just go ahead and plug in so you can charge your batteries. And then you've got an idea, you've got a baseline. How long can I last in my RV boondocking without the resources? Now, in an emergency, of course, if you're in a full hookup RV campground and you've turned the resources off, you can certainly turn them right back on again. So that's what I recommend. That's what we did. Also, I would say that the right attitude is going to go a long way when you boondock, as long as you know that you're going to be in an attitude of conservation. So, with that, along with a little bit of knowledge, I think that you can set yourself up to go and boondock for extensive periods of time, of course, in the right climate. So, one of the ways that we conserve our electricity is, again, we pick the right climate. And for reasons I just mentioned. However, also, we like to cook outdoors. It's much easier to cook outside, maybe on a propane grill, or maybe some of you might have a Blackstone like we do. And getting those little bottles of propane from the grocery store is a little bit easier than having to move your rig to fill up your main propane tank in your RV. Another thing that we do to conserve is that we use our lights very sparingly. If you have incandescent bulbs in your RV, they are certainly going to take up a lot of energy, and more so than you would imagine. Now, another thing that we did in our RV, it was that we replaced all of our incandescent bulbs with LED bulbs. But even though we do that, we don't necessarily light the entire rig up. I will tell you that LED bulbs are much more efficient than incandescent bulbs. But at night we might only use one little tiny LED bulb just to throw a little bit of soft light in the rig while we're relaxing in the evening time. I would also encourage you to assess your own electrical needs. You can walk into any Home Depot or Lowe's and buy a watt meter, and you plug the watt meter into your power outlet, and then all of the appliances that you use, you can plug those appliances into the watt meter and operate them for a little bit, and that will tell you exactly how much electricity does each appliance use. And so that's that. And by the way, those are very affordable. I think when I bought mine, it was like $15 at Home Depot. Also, I would encourage you to identify and turn off any parasitic drains. And what I mean by that, those are the little things that maybe you leave your microwave plugged in all the time. And of course, your microwave has a clock in it. Well, that's a parasitic drain. It's using a very little amount of power, but when you have 20 or 30 little parasitic drains out there in your RV, it could chew up a significant amount of electricity and drain your batteries quicker. Also, for those of you that were at the Thor rally, Brighter Products has had a booth out there, and I would encourage you to talk to Avante Lawani at Brighter Products. She's very knowledgeable, and she can help you and give you some extra pointers on helping you with your electrical needs, as well as helping you identify your parasitic drains. And that's how we conserve electrical. Now, power management is also kind of critical when you're out in the in anywhere you're boondocking where you have no services. A couple abbreviations I put here: SOC. That's the state of charge of your batteries. Usually that's measured in percentage. Now I'll tell you that all of my lithium iron phosphate batteries all have a state of charge indicator right on the battery itself. And if you can see up here, this is the top of one of my batteries, and I can see that my battery was at 51% when I took this picture. And it told me that I had 51.4 ampere hours left. And if I continued on in the current state of the drain that I was using, I had 99 hours left before this battery was depleted. These batteries also come with a voltmeter, as well as how many amps you're consuming, and they'll do the calculations and tell you how many watts you're consuming as well. Now, one of the other things that I might recommend is that if you're in an RV that has an inverter, is you might want to consider one of these battery monitoring kits down here, or a BMK. And the BMK, or battery monitoring kit, what it does is it monitors all of the electricity coming in and out of your battery bank, and it does the calculations for you, and it displays it inside your coach, nice and convenient. And also, one of the things it's also going to do is it's going to help, or it will display your voltage inside as well. If your large battery bank that usually is inside your RV, if it hits 12 volts, then you know it's time to recharge. And if you go any lower than 12 volts, then you're at a point where you could start causing damage to traditional batteries. And let's go on to the next slide here. So other tips that we use for conserving water this time. When we're boondocking, we rely on paper plates and plastic dinnerware a lot. And of course, that eliminates or helps with washing dishes. And if we're not washing dishes, we're saving water. We also take Navy showers. And for those of you, unlike me, who were not in the Navy, a Navy shower, if you don't know, is where you simply get in the shower, you wet yourself, and then you soap up and wash, and then you turn the water off while you're soaping. And then you go ahead and turn the water back on briefly to rinse the soap off, and that would be identified as a Navy shower. It's a very efficient way of taking a shower and using as little water as possible. You know, some other alternatives. Maybe you could use baby wipes instead of taking a regular shower. Maybe take a shower every other day and use baby wipes on the off days. Another trick, a trick that we use is that we trickle our water while we're washing our hands. You can conserve a lot of water. Normally, people go up to a faucet, they turn the faucet on, the water comes flowing out. All of that water that you're not using is of course, skipping right off the surface of your hands and going right down the drain. Well, when you have no water, water becomes precious and a very finite resource. So that's another thing that we like to use. We are very cautious about how hard we turn the faucet on when we're using it. Also, if some of you are in larger RVs, you may, and if you're so equipped, I know like my Thor Motorhome has has two toilets in it. It has a gravity toilet, which is located right over the black tank, and it also has an electric macerator toilet in the back end. And they do that so that they don't have to run very large sewer hose across the distance of the rig. So they can use a much smaller sewer line to get the back toilet to the black tank. So here's the thing though: if you use your gravity toilet, you can really control how much water you use during a flush cycle. Whereas if you use your electric macerator toilet, you cannot, in most cases, control how much water is used, and that you might use a gallon per flush. And if you use or if you have like us, we have a 90-gallon water tank. There went 1 gallon of water if you use one flush. So when we boondock, we don't use our electric macerator toilet at all. We use the gravity toilet instead, and that way we can control the water. Now, for an extra conservation effort, you can turn your water pump off when you flush, and that would definitely control the amount of water that you're sending down into your black tank. So that's another, you might not always need water to flush. Or maybe you turn the water pump on every other toilet flush, and that definitely can help save water as well. So, you know, another area is you want to avoid your waste tanks from filling up, the gray water tank as well as the black water tank. And again, you know, a couple of the ways that we do that, they're going to go hand in hand with how do we save water. If we're saving water, then we're obviously not putting so much water in the waste tank. So Navy showers is a big part of that. And again, we'll use the gravity toilets instead of the macerator toilet. And again, with the hand washing, right? And another conservation effort that you can use is if the campground that you're at has vault toilets, you could use those instead, and that definitely would help save, and it would minimize a trip to go empty your wastewater. Another area we need to conserve on when we're boondocking, if you're so equipped. I know many rigs are all electric nowadays, but some still have propane. I know my rig, I could run my water heat off of propane, which we commonly do when we're boondocking. And in fact, what I like to do to conserve propane is I just turn the water heater off and I only use it before we're going to do dishes or before we're going to take showers, and that definitely helps with the amount of propane that we burn through. It makes our trip much longer, and we don't have to break camp to go fill up propane as often. But some other tips that we use here is we use heavier blankets during the colder climates. And we also, as I mentioned, we use the water heater only when it's needed. So that leaves us up to electrical. How do we conserve our electricity? One of the things that I would recommend is that you just use your battery bank and your inverter to power any of your regular household current electric needs. If you're so equipped with an inverter. If you're not, then of course you're going to go out and fire up your generator. But I use my generator only for charging batteries. I don't use it for running the electric appliances, the cooking appliances. I let the batteries in the inverter take on that duty. Everything else, I just simply use the generator for charging batteries. Now, if your rig is also equipped, you might consider setting up your auto gen start. So your auto generator start. Now, one thing to keep in mind with your auto generator start utility is that if you manually set your generator up, if you manually start your generator, you very easily are going to disable the auto gen start feature. So in other words, if you've got auto gen start is armed, and you go ahead and manually reach down, hit the button, and turn your generator on, you're going to kick your generator out of auto start mode. So now it probably won't auto start. Check with your generator manufacturer as well as whoever made the auto gen start to see how your particular model will operate. But I know that's how ours behaves. Also, how we replenish electrical, especially when we're out in the desert for extended period of times, like maybe a 3-month stay. We've got solar panels up on our rig. And we've made a significant investment in solar. And that is one way to prevent us from having to run our generator. Now, I still might run the generator on cloudy days just to make sure that our batteries are charged back up fully top again. But for the most part, in sunny days, especially out in the desert, the solar panels work really nice. Now, I have a residential refrigerator in my RV, and it takes up a lot of electricity. So in order to keep that thing happy and keep it going, I have 6 lithium batteries in my RV. I also have 1,200 watts of solar panels up on top of the roof. Now, with that, if we had no sun at all, we could probably run a good 24 to 48 hours without any type of charging mechanism, whether it be solar or generator. But we know we're going to have to charge some point while we're on an extended boondocking stay. So that's where the solar panels come in. And then if I need to supplement with the generator, I use much less diesel fuel to run the generator if I'm only using it to supplement, as opposed to if I were running it round the clock. So another one of the tricks, as I mentioned, we've replaced our lead acid batteries with lithium batteries, and specifically we chose Brighter batteries for all the features that the Brighter has built in. We'll talk about those in a couple other slides. But lithium was a game changer. Lithium, along with solar panels, was a game changer for us with boondocking. And so I'll take a little bit of brief to talk about the manufacturer who made my lithium batteries and my solar panels, and that was Brighter Products. And they're based in South Bend, Indiana. And they were featured on Bloomberg TV as the world's greatest battery. And I think for the reasons that they received that was because of their design, how those batteries were designed. They're ruggedized. They're the only battery that was made for RVs specifically. And what I mean by that is that the battery is housed inside a very sturdy metal case. It's coated with non-conductive material so that the metal case won't conduct electricity. Um, and so that makes this battery extremely rugged, extremely durable. Now, also the battery is repairable. The battery is made to come apart. It's made to be repaired. Uh, Between that and the built-in display that's included on the top of the battery, that's the reason why I chose Brighter Products as opposed to other brands for my lithium battery use. Uh, I was more impressed with the build quality that went inside those batteries. As a former Navy electronic technician, some area that I'm intimately familiar with is quality when it comes to electronic components, and they did it right. They built them right. They were designed correctly, and they're repairable. You don't have to throw the whole battery away. So now, one of the things that I did for my motorhome was that we just simply drove to Brighter's facility in South Bend, Indiana. They let us stay in their parking lot while they were doing all the work, and they did all the work. I drove in. I told them what I wanted. They did a assessment of the health of my electrical system in the RV, so they knew what they were working with to start with. There was actually some things that didn't work on my rig that I didn't realize. I didn't realize that my battery was not being charged from the engine, and it should have been. So not only did they give me a great solar and lithium system, but they also fixed the things that were wrong with my rig that I was not even aware of. And of course, they will professionally consult with you. They will design and install whatever it is that they design. Now, I will tell you that the Brighter batteries are a little bit more costly than other batteries, but this is truly an example of you get what you pay for. So I was quite happy with their install. This is a video of my battery box before the installation and then after. They basically mitigated all of the corrosion from the lead acid batteries that were in my rig, and they made my battery bank look brand new inside when they cleaned it all up and got rid of all the corrosion. Um, here's some video of my current batteries. And by the way, when that indicator was flashing like that, it tells me that the battery is taking a charge. So I've got 600 amp hours of battery. I've got 1,200 watts of solar panels up on the roof of my motorhome. And we have turned our RV into a boondocking machine, if you will. And they do Brighter Products does outstanding work, and was not more pleased with the install the way it turned out. It was a wonderful job that they did. So here's some of the tips and tricks now that you might be interested in. By the way, just to kind of set this stage here, last year, 2022, we boondocked in Quartzsite for 3 months. We pulled into the BLM campground office area, and we bought a 6-month seasonal pass. Now, we only stayed for 3 months, but I think it cost us $240 to buy the long-term pass. And there are certain sections of the BLM that are considered long-term, and they're called the LTVAs, the long-term visitor area. That's the only place where you can stay for extended period of time. The other BLM, the general BLM camping areas, are reserved for 2 weeks only. So the regular areas you can stay for 2 weeks, and those are free of charge for 2 weeks. But if you want to stay for extended period of time, go to the LTVA. Some of the extended LTVAs will have water and sewer sources available there within the LTVA area, that was the area that we stayed. Now, we were there for 3 months. We only moved our rig one time during those 3 months, and it was to go fill up our propane tanks when they got low. I'm going to give you a tip how to not do that, but I haven't employed that tip yet. But let's talk about water. How do we replenish water? Well, the two pictures that you see here on the screen, that's how I do it. I have a 160-gallon water bladder that I bought on Amazon, and I put it in and I tow an F-150 as my tow vehicle. But you could lay this in the floor of pretty much any tow vehicle, and you could fill up water. I had no problems with this thing. It is very sturdy, very solid constructed, and I would not be hesitant to just put it in my car, the floorboard of my car, and fill it with water. But then I use this little tiny water transfer pump to pump water out of the bladder back into my motorhome. And so that's the basic way how I can replenish water in the motorhome without moving the motorhome. First thing I do, though, when I get into a boondocking situation is I want to identify my water source. Where can I go to get water while I'm boondocking? Well, in Quartzsite in the LTVA area, it was very easy. Now, some of you may want to even consider using a full hookup campground as your water source. When we were out in Carlsbad, in the near the caverns, we stayed out there for 2 weeks. We did move the rig. This was before I bought my water bladder and my water pump. But we checked in. We did a week out in the BLM. And then we know from running our baseline test that we can last about a week without any kind of extended help as far as resources. As far as I know, my black and gray tanks will last about a week. So as a strategy to boondock in Carlsbad, we said, okay, so we'll stay out here for a week out in the BLM. We'll go to a full hookup campground for one day. We'll dump the tanks, we'll fill the water tank, and then we'll get right back out to the BLM. And so that's what we did. But that was before we learned all these tips and tricks here. Another trick that I use is I keep a water pitcher, right next to my shower. And that way, when you turn your shower on and you have all that cold water while you're waiting for the water to get hot in the shower, I catch that cold water and I can use it for other purposes. If you wanted, you could even put it on the stove, heat it up, etc. Use it for dishes, whatever you need to do with that. You could use it for flushing water, but the idea here is that I didn't let my cold water go to waste. We use everything that we can without being wasteful. A lot of people will refill some water containers, and that's perfectly acceptable. Very popular thing to do is use the 5-gallon water bottles that go in a water dispenser. You can use them. You can get a very small, very affordable hand pump that will go on your 5-gallon bottles. And you can use them for maybe making coffee or cooking or brushing teeth, etc. Those are very popular to use as well, and we did that for the first year before we had all of our boondocking resources in place. Portable water tanks are popular. I know that you can find collapsible water tanks that you could use in an RV, usually about 5-gallon size or so. But like I said, I chose the water bladder that I got from Amazon. I also bought this water transfer pump from Amazon as well, and that pumps water back into the rig. And of course, you can get out and boondock without spending any money at all, simply by just go break camp, go replenish your rig, fill up at the local water source, dump at the local sewer source, and then get right back out there again. So really, you can do this without spending any money, but that's your last resort. Now, if I can get out there and stay out there without breaking camp to replenish the rig, then that's a win for me. So here's the back of my pickup truck. I've got a regular household 110 outlet. It powers that water pump that you just saw there. The hose is simply, I'm pumping water into my motorhome, and that's how I refill the motorhome without breaking camp. Now let's talk about some of these gadgets here that we see up here on the screen. Of course, everybody may have seen this guy before. That's the Blue Boy, right? That is a portable waste tank that usually can be towed behind your vehicle. So the idea is you back this up to your RV, you take the cap off, you use your regular 4-inch sewer hose, and you simply drain your sewer into the portable tank. Then you hook this up behind your tow vehicle, whatever that may be, and then you drive it or tow it to the local site. Now this works good if you don't have a long distance to travel. I would reserve this for use inside a campground. However, I have a different use for it. I'm going to show you that in a little bit. Now, here's another interesting item here, is that we have off to the upper left hand, we have a macerator toilet right here. If you haven't used or aren't familiar with these are kind of interesting. The macerator toilet, it doesn't use water, so there's an advantage right there, and it's self-contained. So the concept behind the macerator toilet is that the liquids go into this canteen right here. So maybe every third day or so, when the liquids fill up, you'll take this out and dispose of it properly. But the solids drop straight down into this holding tank down here. And you see this this handle right here beside the composting toilet. And after you're done using the toilet, this is partially filled with coconut coir or peat moss or something like that. There's some kind of two agents in there that help with the composting action. So after you use it, you give the handle a couple of turns, and then now people that we talk to say that they can that use these can go approximately 90 days before they have to service the toilet. In other words, before they have to empty the solid tank. They may empty the canteen every third day or so, but about every 90 days they can go before they have to empty the solid. Now, the trick is that because all this composting action is going on inside, all of the solids basically turn into soil. So then the idea is you remove this top section off of the composting toilet. You take this thing right off, and then there's an inside bin, and you would take that bin and dump it inside a cardboard box or a garbage bag, whatever you need to dispose of. And I know people firsthand that have these things, that they swear by them. We don't have one. I'm not sure if I'm going to or not, because you're going to find out how I handle that stuff in a different way. But the people that have them love them. Now, if you invest, and by the way, they're expensive. They're like I think this one is called Nature's Head. It's like $1,000. If you make that type of investment, spend the extra $20 and buy one of these clamp-on bayonet mount sewer valves. The idea here is that you can close this valve, attach it to the end of your sewer drain, and then open the internal drains that come in. And when you open your gray valve and you open your black valve, everything is keeping everything contained within your tanks. But now what you've done is you've connected your gray water tank and your black water tank together. Remember, if you've invested in a composting toilet, you don't need a black tank anymore. So now your black tank is going to double the capacity of your gray water. And this becomes a very affordable and very critical tool to join those two tanks together. So now you've got double the gray water tank. So here's some other things that I use as well. I use a macerator pump. And the macerator pump, basically, this section right here attaches to the RV sewer receptacle. And then the output right here is garden hose. So now you can pump your waste, gray or black water. There's a grinder in here that grinds solids up. So now everything will fit nicely inside a garden hose. And what that does now, I can run a garden hose from my macerator pump right into, right into my Blue Boy tank, and I can keep the Blue Boy tank in the back of my pickup truck. Now, you might be saying, well, Mike, I don't have a pickup truck. I have a motorhome, and I tow a smaller car. Well, I think most every car has the capability of a hitch on the back of it. So here's what you can do there. I don't think that I would be inclined to put a Blue Boy tank inside my car. Even if I had a larger hatchback, I don't think I would want to do that just in case. But what I would be willing to do is invest in one of these baskets or trays that hook up to your hitch on the back of your tow vehicle, right? So if you're towing a smaller vehicle behind a motorhome, this now could hold your Blue Boy so that in the event that you have to travel long distance, you can put the Blue Boy tank in this basket and it would be outside the vehicle. So if you did have any kind of disastrous spills, it would not be inside the vehicle. So these are all some things that we've learned along the way, and I hope that they're helping. Here's my sewer setup here, right? I've got my sewer hose coming out of the sewer receptacle. Let me back that up a little bit. Yep, there's the sewer hose. That's where the macerator pump hooks in, because I can't quite fit the pump inside the rig. I don't have enough room. The pump is a little larger. It's about a foot long total. But you can see now the output, the input is the normal traditional sewer hose. Or if you have the room on your RV, you could go ahead and hook this directly up to your sewer fitting on the rig itself. And then the garden hose takes the output and pumps it into the Blue Boy itself. And in order to power that macerator pump, I just run a temporary line from my battery box, which is this door that's opened here, and it pumps, it powers the macerator pump. And then, of course, the garden hose goes up into the back of my pickup truck. I apologize if I'm making you dizzy here. And that's where the Blue Boy tank is sitting, and I strap it down inside the truck. And usually when we're boondocking, I just go ahead and leave this in the back of the truck because I have a topper that goes over the back of my pickup. But also sometimes I will take it out if I need the truck bed, and I'll just set it very conveniently and neatly, tuck it underneath my motorhome. And that works for me as well. And that's how we offload waste without moving the motorhome. So I have not made this investment, which is basically how to replenish propane. You can invest in what's called a extended stay kit. Yeah, especially now, if you're in a fifth wheel or travel trailer, you don't need to consider this because you use portable tanks anyway. Whether they're 20-gallon, 30-gallon, 40-gallon, etc., or 20-pound tank, 30-pound tank, or 40-pound tank. For the most part, as you're aware already, your tanks can come off of your RV and you can take them in to fill up. But when you're in a motorhome, you don't have that luxury. Tanks are permanently built into the motorhome. So in the case of a motorhome, you can buy an extend a stay kit, and that would allow you to take a 20-pound, 30, 40-pound propane bottle and backfill your system when you can't move the motorhome. If you can't move the motorhome, to go fill up your propane tank. So now you can, just like you would if you had a travel trailer or a fifth wheel, etc. So again, I haven't made this step yet because we have a fairly sizable propane tank on our motorhome. So I haven't done that. But anyway, this kind of includes the tips and tricks for boondocking. Obviously, we can't do a Q&A. If you send me an email, I can answer any questions that you may have. So all the information is here on your screen. My email is mike@gondak.net. Some of these tips and tricks you might see out on YouTube. I've got a YouTube channel, and our YouTube handle and social media handle is called Random Bits RV. And my wife writes a wonderful blog called www.randombitsoftrialanderror.com, and we can see you there. And lastly, I would encourage you to try boondocking, because if you're anything like me, it will be a game changer, and it will totally change the way that you camp. And I think that many people will certainly enjoy it and love it as much as we do. In the meantime, I'm Mike Gondak, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the road.